And welcome to episode 13 of the What Shara Made podcast. 13 is my lucky number, so I hope this is a good episode. I have got a lot of whips going on this week. It's been a busy week, but I have been doing my best to fit in as much crafting as possible. I'm pleased to report that my back is feeling much better. Thank goodness. And I feel really bad for anyone else who has back troubles. Oh, poor thing. Mine's 100% now, so that's great. In the Southern Hemisphere at the moment, it's allegedly autumn or fall, whichever you like to call it. Someone forgot to let Mother Nature know here we're having a heat wave. We're actually having a heat wave in autumn, and it's only the beginning of the heat wave, and the Bureau of Meteorology says that it's going to last probably another 10 days. Oh. It's really hot. It's almost 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 40 degrees Celsius outside at my place at the moment, and it's been like that for the last 3 or 4 days, and it will be for quite a few more days to come. So I'm surprised I've actually got so much knitting done in this weather, but you know, you got to do what you got to do with what you've got. Now, my first whip, not a lot has happened on it, but I've managed to crack row 4 in the repeat for the fox paws. I managed to actually complete an entire colour repeat without having to redo anything. I was high-fiving myself when I did that. I was pretty pleased. So this is the Fox Paws pattern by Zandy Peters, and I'm using Knit Picks palette, which is a fingering weight wool, and it's really beautiful. I'm really loving it, and now that I've managed to get through the cursed row 4 without issue, I'm really enjoying the pattern. I was enjoying it before, but now I'm really loving it. In my head, I imagined I was going to get one repeat, which is that much. That's one repeat in between there. I imagined I was going to get one repeat done each day, at least. But it seems to be about one repeat every 2 days, if I'm lucky. And yesterday I didn't do anything on it, so need some love tonight. And the reason I didn't get any love on it yesterday or even the day before is because I had to steal the needles from it to use in my next whip that I'm going to show you. I don't even know how this is possible, but I could not find a spare pair of 4mm tips, and they're probably the tips that I use most often, and I know that I have like a squillion pairs of 4mm tips. Couldn't find any of them, so I went to my local yarn store yesterday and bought an extra pair of 4mm tips for my interchangeables, and then came home and found 2 pairs of them at home. That's obviously how life goes. The best way to find something that you've lost is to buy a new one. Anyway, now I've got an extra pair, so that's all good, and I can put one of those extra pairs back on this cable and keep going with my fox paws. Now, my next whip is what I stole the needles for. You may remember that I mentioned last week, and possibly even the week before, that I was going to take part in the knit along that Eric from the Sticks Plus Twine podcast is hosting at the moment, which is an exploration station cal. And I love doing my first one with the linen so much that there was no way I could not join in on this because it's so much fun. And last week I showed you the yarns I had planned to use, and they were definite and I wasn't going to change my mind. So the last minute I changed my mind and swapped two of them for something completely different, and I'm so glad I did because I absolutely love these colours. I don't know if that's going to be easy for you to see. I'm loving it so much. This green here is one of my hand-dyed yarns that I dyed maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and it had just sort of been marinating in my stash. And I wasn't really sure. I had less than 200 metres of it, so I wasn't sure what I was going to be able to make with it. It was obviously just waiting to be put into an exploration station. So you can see the texture there. I love it. This one here is a Bendigo Woolen Mills Luxury 4-ply, which is 100% merino wool, beautiful and soft. The grey is a patenile, I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, sock yarn, which is 75/25. It's really nice, and that was the yarn that I attempted to knit my first pair of real socks out of, and I chose a completely ridiculous pattern for a first pair of socks, and I couldn't do it, and I gave up pretty quickly. And that has just been sitting in my stash for 6 or 7 years, so it was about time it got used. And the beige is also a Bendigo Woolen Mills Luxury 4-ply, 100% merino, and it's beautiful and soft as well. So I'm really pleased with this. Now the way that the cal is happening, it's similar to when the original exploration station mystery cal happened, but obviously it's not a mystery now because we all know what it looks like. But Eric's got it set out so that we will be doing section 1, which is this short row section, from March 1st to March 10, and I'm just about finished section 1, and the next section, which we'll do following that one, from March 10 to March 20, I think, is the brioche section. So that should be really fun. I really enjoyed that in my last one, so looking forward to that. But I'll have to wait until the first section time is up before I begin that section. So I just need to wait patiently so that can just hang around for a little while in its project bag. Now my next whip is one that you may have seen in a very early episode where I was talking about my longest languishing whips. And this one is a blanket that I'm making, crocheting it using the corner to corner method, and I'm attempting to use up every single scrap of DK weight cotton that I had hanging around in my stash, which was quite a bit, over a kilo of cotton is going into this. This has been set aside for this. And I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of a corner to corner crochet blanket, but it's exactly what it sounds like. You start in one corner and it grows, and then when you get halfway you decrease again and get a nice lovely square. But you can make it a rectangle as well, and I think that's what I might do with this one. I'm not sure yet, but I'm gonna have to move back to show you this because it's getting quite big now. So this is what we've got so far, and it's got a lovely texture to it, this stitch. Really enjoying it. And you don't have to think much about it at all. You can just really mindlessly work away on it in front of the TV or wherever you like to work. And that one hasn't gotten a lot done on it in the last few days because even though I'm inside with air conditioning on, thank goodness, it's still too hot to have a blanket, even though it's cotton, draped over your lap while you're working when it's 40 degrees plus. So it's going to be on hold for probably the next 2 weeks, I'd say, that poor thing. Although I would really like to be using it in this hot weather. I'm not going to get a chance, but never mind, maybe next summer or autumn. Now, my next whip is a beanie. You might remember me talking about the beanie festival that I take part in every year. And this is one of the beanies that I'm going to enter. And the yarn that I'm using, not a lot of it yet. The yarn that I'm using is some of my own hand dyed. You might remember that from last week when I was talking about when I dyed some yarn when it was in a cake, and I wasn't loving it when it was being knit into socks, so I thought, oh, I'll knit it into a hat. And that's when I started to get some really seriously fabulous pooling happening. And that's this hat here. Haven't quite sewn in the ends yet. It's almost a finished object. So that was the serious pooling that I got happening with this one, and I really love it. That's exactly what I wanted when I dyed the yarn originally, and it wasn't happening in the socks. But it's happening there, and I love it. Oh god, how cool is that? Seriously love it. And this is loosely based on the sock head hat. I wonder if I can put it on without it looking too crazy. Maybe. Oh my god, it's so hot. I feel hot just thinking about putting a beanie on. But it's got a little bit of slouch at the back. It's good. Actually, I really like those colours. Maybe I'll have to dye some more. So that's one. So this is the first completed hat for the Beanie Festival. That'll be going into the festival. And you'll see that this whip, obviously I'm not getting the same pooling, even though I'm using the same size needles and same amount of stitches, because the ratio of each colour changed the deeper it got into the cake when I dyed it. So this is the remaining part, and it's quite a bit lighter in this section as well, so I'm not aiming to get any sort of pooling in this because I know it's not going to happen. I drive myself crazy trying to get that to work, but I really like it anyway. I'm really enjoying it, and this is another really good mindless knit that you don't have to think about at all. And I've got my totally cute acorn stitch marker from the lovely Andrea from Wonderwool, the Wonderwool podcast. And something else you probably, wait, I've got some more here. These are some other finished pieces for the Beanie Festival. I've got this one. It's pretty cute. I really love this one. It's so very bum. It's so cute. And this one is made using Drops Eskimo, which is a really big, fat, super bulky pure wool, and I love it. It's really nice to work with, actually. It's not superwash at all. It's very feltable, so you have to be gentle with it when you're washing it, but it wears very well, and it's really nice. Really love it. And of course it knits up really quickly. This is only 56 stitches to make a grown-up's hat, so you can imagine it goes pretty quickly. You can probably get one of these done start to finish in maybe 2 hours, so that's brilliant. ages and ages ago, you might remember me talking about the faux fur pom-poms I'd been making using the Lion brand pelt yarn. It's like a fun fur yarn that I would never normally touch ever, but it does knit up into some pretty cool faux fur pom-poms. And this is just, I start with 16 stitches on 4mm needles, and then I increased 8 stitches every second round until I had 40 stitches, and then I knit 3 rows plain, and this is all done in the round of course, and then I decrease 8 stitches every second row until I had 8 stitches left. Then I closed up the top, stuffed it with some just regular toy stuffing, closed up the bottom as well, and then I've attached it to the beanie with a ribbon, so it's actually detachable as well. So if you don't feel like having a big pom-pom bobbing around on the end of your hat, then you can take it off. But it's also good to be able to remove it for washing the hat as well. Of course the pom-pom is washable as well, but hand wash only strictly, but it would take ages to dry. So unless it was the pom-pom that urgently needed washing, I'd take it off for washing. So that's that one. Haven't used a pattern, it's just a simple bobble pattern. Yeah, really love some bobbles, as you would be familiar with by now. And this is the third hat that is finished for the beanie affair. This looks small, but it is indeed a grown-up's hat. Pretty cute. Same situation with the bobble, with the pom-pom here, sorry. It's attached with a ribbon, so it is detachable for variations in style. And it's also knit with the Drops Eskimo yarn as well, which is so nice. Oh, so lovely, and that navy blue is such a gorgeous colour. Love it. It's worked up so quickly. Really nice. And that's also 56 stitch cast on, and just using a seed stitch in there. Love it, absolutely love it. So far I've got 3 1/4 beanies out of the 15 that I'm going to make for the Beanie Festival, and I'm pretty pleased with that progress. It's not actually until May, so I've got lots of time, but as much as I like to be very organised, and I like to get things done before they're due so I don't have to worry about stressing at the last minute for a deadline. But I do seem to always be working furiously right before a deadline. But so it's best if I just start now. Now, today's tea, yum, is coming to you, or me, in this little foxy mug that I got in a little shop in my town. I absolutely love this mug. It is so cute. I would seriously love some fabric with that print on it. It would be really cool. But the tea today is a green tea called Summer. So, seeing as how we're having a second summer in autumn, I thought I'd go with that. And it's a green tea with pineapple and lemongrass in it. It's pretty delicious, very refreshing, and this is cold. Obviously I'm not drinking hot tea because I would die of heat stroke if I was. It's really good. And I've got you probably remember me talking last week, hopefully, about a little extra cal that I've got going on called Make a Difference March, and I think I'll probably extend it so that it's not just for March but probably for April as well, just so it gives everyone a chance to join in. And what that cal is about is making some things, knitting, crochet, sewing, if that's your deal, or weaving, whatever you like to do, making things for charity. And you can make it for any charity that you like. I'm making mine for one called Kogo, or Knit One Give One, which is in Melbourne, and they look after lots of different groups of people and they do a really great job, so I'm always really happy to help them out with anything that they need. And they've made a call for, they want everything, but in particular at the moment they're looking for men's beanies in dark colours, and I've got lots of really nice yarn that's dying to be used, just hanging out in my stash, so I've been looking for something good to use it for, and I think this is the best thing I could do with it. And they're also looking for kids' beanies in school colours, and they're pretty specific about that one because they want them all to be pretty uniform. So they've got some directions on their website about the colours and the pattern they'd like you to use, and that's cool as well. Hopefully I'll have some of that hanging around in my stash as well. But a couple of things that I've made extra that they can just keep in their stash of handmade goodies to give to people in need, as well as the urgent things that they're asking for. So I'm almost finished these. Obviously this one still needs its little edging, but there's some little crochet fingerless mitts. And this yarn is a pretty nice one. It's one that I've had for a really long time as well, and it's a merino silk angora blend, and it's beautiful. It is so nice. They don't make it anymore, which is a bummer because it's really beautiful, and I had just enough left to make a pair of fingerless mitts, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to use it, make something nice for someone with cold little hands. And its name on the second one just needs its little edging. So I've done those. Well, they're almost done. Then I've got one beanie as well, which is a crocheted beanie, as you can see. I think this is probably going to be too small for men, unless they're a small man. But it's still going to help someone, and that's just some random 100% pure wool stash yarn that I had hanging around, and it's so nice to be using up all these beautiful yarns that I've had for so long that I haven't been doing anything, and they're no use to anyone while they're wound up in a box somewhere. So better make them into something useful. And I've also woven a scarf. This sort of looks purple on the screen, but it's actually a really cool grey blue colour. And it's a bamboo, you can sort of see a bit of a sheen on it. It's a bamboo wool blend. And this was some yarn that I won years ago, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it, and turns out it was absolutely perfect for weaving. And I've got a Ashford rigid heddle loom, and really all I've made on it so far, I've had it for almost 10 years I think, is scarves. So I've just made loads of scarves. They're all different designs and colours and patterns and things, but they're all scarves. And this is quite long, this one, and I think that would be nice for a man or a woman, so that would, I mean, the texture of the fabric is just so beautiful. I really love it, really love it, and it's really nice and soft, and hopefully whoever gets that will enjoy it. I enjoyed making it. It's actually, I don't know if you've ever tried rigid heddle weaving, or weaving on a rigid heddle loom, but it's super quick. It's really fast. It almost took me as long to get the war patterning as it did to actually finish it. But anyway, really enjoyed that. And I think what I'd really like to do is to make some fabric with the loom, and then make the fabric into something that isn't a scarf. like make it into a bag or a purse, or I think it would be pretty cool to have a hand woven fabric project bag. Like, that'd be awesome. And I think I might attempt to do that. Like, it makes a pretty good fabric. It's reasonably dense, and I think you can make a pretty cool project bag with that. It might have to be a future project to keep in mind. Now, the other thing I've been doing a bit of as well is spinning. And I hadn't done any spinning for a little while, but I finished off that cursed organic merino that I'd been working on forever. Well, actually, I haven't finished it. I finished off, originally when I started spinning it, I pulled the roving in half, and I was just going to spin one half and then spin the other half on another bobbin and then ply them together and have 100 grams of beautiful organic merino hand spun. But it didn't happen that way. The first half that I was attempting to spin, I just found it almost impossible to spin, and I think it's because it's so beautifully soft that it was just too slippery, and I think I was probably trying to spin too fine a yarn as well, and I tend to spin a pretty fine yarn, and I do a much better job when I spin a finer yarn than when I try and spin a thicker yarn. But anyway, I really struggled with it to the point where I would spin for a minute and then it would break, and I'd have to rejoin it, and I'd spin for another minute and it would break, and that just went on like that. And it took me almost 2 days to spin 25 grams of it, and that's just ridiculous. So I applied that amount that I had originally spun, and it came up quite nicely, although it is quite bumpy and thick and thin because I had to keep rejoining it after it broke every time, and I was getting pretty impatient with that as well, so I didn't do the best job on it. And I thought, if I can just get the other half of that half, the first half of it done, I'll be pleased. So I didn't quite struggle as much with that second half as I did with the first half, but I actually still have 50 more grams of it hanging around that I'm not all that eager to spin. But and I'm actually looking at the new lot that I've just finished spinning of that yarn hanging on the clothesline getting dry because I just plied it and washed it. And there's another plain undyed Corridale hand spun hanging on the line too that I'm looking at, clothesline at the back in the sun, and that was beautifully easy to spin. And then I've gotten on to this one. It's a little braid, and this is one half of the 100 gram braid that I'm spinning at present. That bobbin's still on my wheel, so I didn't want to interrupt it, bring it out to show you, but it's exactly like this. Two halves were identical, and I'm going to spin those singles from that half, spin singles from this half, and then when I apply them, I'm hoping that they will, because they're identical in the colour change, that they will match up a little bit, and I won't get as much barber polling, and it might act a bit more like a self-striping a little bit. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but that's a fun part about spinning with hand-dyed roving. The colours are always a bit of a surprise. And while we're on the topic of barber polling in spinning, if you're not familiar with what that is, it's when you get, say you had a single that was done in that, and you had a single that was done in that, and then they get plied together, they twist around each other like in a sort of a spiral like that, which is like a barbershop pole, or pole at the front of a barbershop that's spinning. And I'd only ever heard American people use that phrase on other podcasts and YouTube and things like that, and I didn't know what they were talking about. I'd never heard anyone else refer to barber polling, but it was always used in reference to spinning, and because I'd only ever heard Americans say it, it was sort of, to me, it sounded like they were saying barber pooling, like a swimming pool, but really they were saying barber poling. And it's been about a year since I first heard that phrase, and it was only yesterday that I discovered that they meant barber poling, not barber pooling. Anyway, gave me a bit of a laugh, laughing at myself. It makes sense now. Usually people refer to barber poling in their handspun as something negative. I've only ever really seen people refer to it in a negative sense, but I love it. It's one of my favourite parts about coloured handspun yarn is that barber poling, that when the two different colours get plied together. I love it. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favourite bits, and I love seeing as I'm plying the different colours coming together. It's good. So I guess we all have different tastes. And I think I've actually covered all my whips and all my finished objects, so that's done. And I did it pretty quickly, which is good because I had to turn the fan and the air conditioning off in here while I filmed because it's too noisy while I'm filming, and I'm really, really hot now. And just one little thing that I wanted to add is that the winner that I announced last week of the February year-long stash busting craft along, you haven't contacted me yet, Linda, so get in contact with me. I'll wait a month from the time of announcement, and if you don't get in contact with me, I'll probably have to draw it again. I see that that's the way other podcasters do it, and I think that's pretty fair. So do get in contact with me, Linda. I really want to send you those beautiful stitch markers. I'd hate for you to miss out. And keep on adding all your amazing finished objects to the year-long stash busting craft along finished object thread, because there's so many gorgeous things in that thread. Every day people are adding something new, and they're so inspirational. You guys are so clever. I'm so pleased to know so many crafty, clever folks. And if you make something for your favourite charity, pop it into the finished objects thread that's also in the Ravelry group, so you can be in the draw to win the hand-dyed yarn that I showed you in last week's episode. And there's also a photo of that yarn in that finished object thread, so you can be inspired. And I think that is everything. Pretty sure I've covered everything that I needed to. So I will see you again next week. Thanks so much for joining me again, and thanks for joining me for the first time if this is your first time watching an episode of What Shara Made. And I'll see you again soon.